no measures of any kind were enacted to prevent the legalization of criminal income. No one asked at privatization auctions, "Where did you get the money?" Enormous sums were invested in property, and there was no register of owners. A policy similar to this did not exist in a single civilized country. The decision to transform the economy of a huge country without the benefit of the rule of law led not to a free market democracy, but to a kleptocracy that had several dangerous economic and psychological features. In the first place, the new system was characterized by bribery. All resources were initially in the hands of the state, so businessmen competed to buy critical government officials. The winners were in a position to buy the cooperation of more officials, with the result that the practice of giving bribes grew up within the system. Besides bribery, the new system was marked by institutionalized violence. Gangsters were treated as normal economic actors, a practice that tacitly legitimated their criminal activities. At the same time, they became the partners of businessmen who used them as guards, enforcers, and debt collectors. The new system was also characterized by pillage. Money obtained as a result of criminal activities was illegally exported to avoid the possibility of it being confiscated at some point in the future. This outflow deprived Russia of billions of dollars that were needed for its development. Perhaps more important than these economic features, however, was the new system's social psychology, which was characterized by mass moral indifference. If under communism universal morality was denied in favor of the supposed interests of the working class, under the new government, people lost the ability to distinguish between legal and criminal activity. Official corruption came to be regarded as normal, and it was considered a sign of virtue if the official, in addition to stealing, made an effort to fulfill his official responsibilities. Extortion also came to be regarded as normal, and vendors, through force of habit, began to regard paying protection money as part of the cost of doing business. Officials and businessmen took no responsibility for the consequences of their actions, even if those consequences included hunger and death. Government officials helped to organize pyramid schemes that victimized people who were already destitute. Police officials took bribes from leaders of organized crime to ignore extortion, and factory directors stole funds marked for the salaries of workers who had already gone months without pay. The young reformers were lionized in the West, but as the years passed and the promised rebirth of Russia did not materialize, debates broke out in Russia over whether progress was being prevented by the resistance of the Duma, by inadequate assistance from the West, or by the inadequacies of the Russian people themselves. These arguments, however, had a surrealistic quality because they implicitly assumed that with the right economic combination, it was possible to build a free market democracy without the rule of law. In fact, a market economy presupposes the rule of law because only the rule of law can assure the basis of a free market's existence, which is equivalent exchange. Without law, prices are dictated not by the market, but by monopolization and the use of force. The need for a framework of law was especially acute in the case of Russia, because for ordinary Russians, socialism was not only an economic system, but also a secular religion that lent a powerful sense of meaning to millions of lives. When the Soviet Union fell, it was necessary to replace not only the socialist economic structures, but also the class values that gave that system its higher sanction. This could be done only by establishing the authority of transcendent universal values, which, as a practical matter, could be assured only by establishing the rule of law. On May 10, 1997, the Greek police found in a shallow grave under an olive tree, 2 miles from the Athenian suburb of Serenita, the dismembered body of Svetlana Kotova, one of Russia's top models and a former Miss Russia. It was learned that she had been the guest of Alexander Solenik, Sasha Makedonsky, Russia's #1 professional killer, who had himself been found strangled 3 months earlier in the Athenian suburb of Barabobi. Svetlana's story evoked intense interest in Russia because of her youth and beauty, and because there was something about the romance between a 21-year-old beauty queen and a professional killer that was symbolic of the condition of modern Russia. Svetlana met Solenik in a Moscow nightclub on New Year's night 1997 and traveled to Greece on January 25 at his invitation. She was met at the plane with armloads of flowers.